Recently became a father and want to cherish the experience and make the most of it. I'm not asking about the big obvious things like spending more time with them and not wasting time working all the time. I mean, what little things bug you that you never did when you had the chance? Story 1. Making time to actually play with her toys when she was little is something I really miss as she has grown. She used to ask me all the time if I wanted to play with ponies or build things with her. At the time, there was always washing, cooking, preparing, or visiting to do. Then the time passed, and I realized it had been months since she last asked. When I eventually asked her, she had lost interest and aged out of it. Story 2. I'm not a father, but I do have a great one. I can tell you that your daughter will always remember the little things later on in life, so pay attention to the little things. We had a foosball table in our basement, and without fail, Dad would always promise my brothers and me a championship game every night. I remember practicing for hours and being so excited, even complaining to him when he got home at night that I wanted to play right away. What I didn't realize until I was much older was that, in those years, my dad was building up his company. This meant he worked tirelessly for years, leaving the house early in the morning around 5 to 6 a.m. and not returning until around 10 p.m., sometimes later. My grandpa also had a stroke around the same time, so he was working to also send money back to his home country for his dad's medical care. The last thing he probably wanted to do after working so long was spend time around 3 yelling, hyper children who were all very high energy, to play a fictional championship game in the basement on a foosball table. He barely got his shoes off before we would bug him about playing. But I can't remember one time when he complained. I can't remember a single time when he said no, not tonight. I can't remember a single night when he played with low energy. The man acted like he was more excited than us. He was cheering louder than we were. Looking back, I know that's the kind of parent I want to be for my kids one day, and he truly is my role model. Story 3. I am probably not the person you want to hear from because I have no regrets. My kids are 12 girl and 9 boy, and I have 100 great memories of their younger years. Here is a list of things you should try and do because I know I got a lot out of them. Get one of those chest carry harnesses, and when you are out at a market or something, wear them in it. It is as close to being pregnant as a man will ever get, and I just loved the times I could do this. Take a lot of photos and videos. They change so fast. Play with them with their toys. Be a playmate. Lie down on the floor and just play blocks or cars or shops, whatever. I did the swimming training thing with both my kids as infants. One loved it, the other did not, and we had to cancel the lessons halfway through the season, but give it a go. It was time well spent. As they get older, listen to them and be attentive. We were rushing from one thing to another one day, and my daughter squeezed my hand and asked me to sit and just look at the fallen flowers from a frangipani tree in our yard. She loved those flowers. We sat for no more than 1 minute in silence, just soaking up the day. I will remember that 1 minute for the rest of my life. My son is now playing rugby league, and we throw the ball in the afternoon, do tackling drills, and talk about the game. I do not know a thing about the game, but he loves it, and so do I. When my daughter took up netball, I built her a hoop in the backyard and took her to training every week. Show your kids you love them by being there, putting down your phone and watching them. Volunteer at their school or their clubs. My kids get a real kick out of seeing me serve the sausages from the barbecue or some other job. I was a parent helper at my son's scout event during a sleepover event, and he just loved having his old man there. Do not do everything. It is important they spend time away from you, but being there every now and then really makes them proud. This is more general advice about being a parent and might be controversial, but here it goes. Never forget you are their father, not their friend. When they are young, they need your love, your attention, but also your guidance. Tell them right from wrong. Tell them how to behave. Show them honor and dignity through your own character and how you interact with other people. They are always watching. As they get older and become late teens, your relationship will evolve. You cannot ground an 18-year-old, but if they respect you and you have done a good job raising them, you will never have to. Obviously, I have not gotten to this stage yet, but this is my theory. Wish me luck. Also, remember, your daughters will grow up and probably marry a man like you, and your sons will become a man like you. Be a good person for both of them. Story 4. Here's my advice. Make sure when you say no to your child or put off doing something, you have a good reason for doing it. You don't have to explain the reason to them necessarily. It's for you. Because when they are older and you think back on a time where you didn't do something with your child and you would give almost anything to go back and say yes, you can take some comfort in knowing that you had a good reason at the time. The one that kills me when I think about it is my son, who at one point loved getting some silly little figures from a gumball machine at a laundromat. I'd let him get one or two when we went. I got the idea to take him there with $10 in quarters sometime and let him buy out the machine. I forgot about it though and never did it. It would have made him so happy. But of course, we did tons of stuff that made him happy, so I try and focus on that when I think of things like that. Story 5. Regret is a strong word, but there are a few things I'd change if I had a chance. Not beating myself up over it though. I wish I had gotten myself an audio recorder and recorded their cooing in the mornings. My boys are 6 and 4 now, and after having met my new niece on the weekend, I realized I remember none of that stuff. Not your scenario, but when my second son was born, our eldest did not get enough attention just because our lives became so wildly busy. I wish I had been more present in those moments. Aside from not having strong memories of him during one of the more adorable ages, I also think this lack of attention contributed towards some ongoing resentment towards his younger brother. Not about your kid at all, rather your partner. Our relationship prior to kids was easy. We were just naturally great friends and, without trying, spent almost all our spare time together. If that at all sounds like you, then my advice would be to start tending to that garden. Just because everything becomes so relentlessly busy with kids, we were a good way down the track before either of us had realized we'd drifted apart. Nothing terminal to the relationship, but definitely massively changed. On the flip side, one thing I do and really enjoy, which I'm going to be grateful for in years to come, is create little movie clips of holidays and days out. It is important to balance camera time with actual engaged time, but already I am looking back at videos from a few years ago and am happy I made the effort. It is such a cliche, but kids really do grow up so darn fast. Story 6. Not a father, but I wish my father had taken more of an interest in the things I liked while growing up, like television shows and video games, rather than just ignoring them or insulting them. I also wish he had introduced me to more stuff he liked or was interested in. I just feel like I don't have any real connections with him other than kind of liking the same few sports teams. Story 7. I always meant to do the swimming lessons thing. Unfortunately, with my first son, we were super poor. The second had ear problems that kept him out of the water, and life was just too busy for kids 3, 4, and 5. But I always did mean to take them to swimming lessons. Story 8. Any promise broken, no matter how trivial. Do not make promises you cannot keep. The hardest things are age-sensitive. Your son is only going to hug you after a movie at a certain age. Your daughter will only want to go to Chuck E. Cheese at a certain age. Those ages pass fast. Do not wait for optimal timing. Just point your family in a direction and send it. For me, I wish I took my kids out of school for a fun day of just skipping class and doing cool things like go-karts and batting cages. I kept telling myself I would do it when they were in 5th, then 6th grade, and I never got around to it. It is silly, but it is a pretty big regret I have. Story 9. Not me, but my dad told me this is actually one of his biggest regrets, and it literally makes him tear up when he thinks about it, and I want to share this story. I was probably around 2 years old. He had bought potato wedges and we were in the car. I guess there was one left and he asked, "Do you want the last potato wedge?" I said, "Nope." He replied, "Are you sure? Because there won't be any left." And I still said, "Nope." He said he ate it, and within a few minutes, I asked, "Daddy, can I have another potato wedge?" And yeah. So the moral of the story, I guess, is to always save the last piece for your kids, or you will regret it even 20 years later. Story 10. Interesting question. My kids are 7 and 11, so there is still plenty of time to go and regret things. I regret not taking my daughter on a big wheel ride in Edinburgh and putting it off until the next day. It was closed the next day. I regret my son is still not great at riding a bike or swimming, but he is getting there with both. I regret not keeping up with taking a simple portrait photo of them on their birthdays or more formal photos at big events, like the first day of school. Maybe I am not very good at thinking about it, but I don't regret many missed opportunities with them because we have put a lot of time into both of them. Not quite what you are asking, but I sort of regret not making more of opportunities with my partner to spend time without the kids. Keeping a relationship going with your kids, and some other issues we had, has been really tough, and I wish we had been more successful. Story 11. This may sound weird, but I wished I had visibly failed at a bunch of things in front of them. They are both more afraid of failure than they should be, in my opinion, and I wish I had just messed up at stuff in front of them more often so that they could see it's not that big a deal. Just pick yourself up and try it again. Or don't and realize that's fine too. Story 12. Be present mentally. I spent way too much time going through the motions while my thoughts were a million miles away on stuff that does not matter. If I could do it all over again, that would be the thing I would do differently. Story 13. When you go to a father and daughter dance, dance with your daughter. Don't be the cool dad standing with the rest of the crowd. You're there for your daughter, not a bunch of guys you'll never say more than 5 words to. Story 14. Let them talk. Just start a conversation by saying school or whatever sports, and let them talk. They want to tell you, and it allows you to teach them how to talk properly, how to use certain words, and how to describe the details. Don't stop them. Just throw in small corrections when needed. These will be cherished memories while also helping them grow in their personality. Story 15. Not a father, but I wish my dad supported me when I was dating. Accept that your children will one day grow up, fall in love, and start dating when they are teenagers. My parents banned me from dating, and when I tried to tell them about it, they got upset with me for not focusing on my studies and career, and I had to date in secret. There were many issues with sex and relationships that I just wanted to ask my mom or dad about because I wanted support and advice. A lot of things ended up being trial and error for me, and if my parents had just listened and accepted that I'd grown up, it would have saved me from a lot of heartache, and I'd have recognized what unhealthy relationships look like. Basically, you'd want to be there for your kids during their first love so that when they make mistakes or there are red flags, you'd be there to help them. Kids are kids and will make mistakes. It's a natural part of life. Don't shut down this topic because it wouldn't benefit anyone and would just strain your relationship with your child. Story 16. Keep a journal. All the moments that come to pass that you'll remember forever, you'd be amazed how much you forget. Plus, it would be a great gift to give to your child when they're older. Story 17. Not a father, but a son. My father didn't teach me to shave. He told me to watch a YouTube video. He never really seemed to care about me after I started high school. He never came to sporting events or spent time with me. It's not just about when your kids are super young. They need support for a long time. Story 18. While it may not be trivial, I refuse to overwork at my job and miss my child's life. With a baby on the way, I don't want to be the dad who prioritized working 12-hour days just to make more money. Story 19. I don't regret reading to my kids every single night. I can probably count the ones we missed in the first 5 years or so on one hand. It was always at least one story, and we usually aimed for 20 to 30 minutes. We would regularly have company over at the time, and they got used to entertaining themselves while we excused ourselves to read to our kids at bedtime. A lot of people say they regret not playing with toys and doing that sort of stuff more. I disliked it. Not to say I never did it, but it wasn't really a habit. I preferred to do things with the kids, take walks, go to the zoo. I loved playing video games with them. I liked working on projects with them. I liked doing chores with them. I always went to their events. We watched a lot of movies together. You kind of have to decide what kind of parent you want to be. I wanted my kids to be independent, so I encouraged them to play on their own instead of constantly playing with me or their mother. Did I do too much or too little? No idea. I don't regret not spending every minute of every day entertaining them one bit, though. Story 20. Coming from a child. I wish my dad had shared more of his culture with me. When I was a kid, I always thought going to Polish school on Saturdays was boring, so Dad stopped exposing me to my culture. Now that I'm an adult, I wish I had spent more time learning the language and appreciating the connection it gave me to a part of my dad's life. Story 21. My son asked me to play Batman. I was a 380-pound raging alcoholic. I was in no shape to be a parent, let alone be Batman. I think about that a lot. I hope he has forgotten about it because he was very young. It's the only thing in his 11 years that makes me angry with my life choices. You should never be in such bad shape that you can't play with your son. I'm sober now, and I take my health seriously. I can be any superhero he wants anytime.